Hey everybody. Well, it's been a couple weeks. I said I'd probably take a week off if nothing much was happening, and nothing much happened. So about the only thing we did, Stu right here. I thought Stu was looking a little thin. A little dirty in the butt too, by the way. So, but then again with Stu, he's always been kind of a lanky. He doesn't have that big fat, but I wasn't too sure, so we decided I better worm him. I did the same schedule I did with Billy Joe. It worked so well with her. Hit him with some Cydectin. A few days later, Valbazin. Hit him again with Cydectin. And I've seen as of yesterday, looks like everything's coming out normal again. So he didn't get too thin, but it just, I don't know, didn't look quite right to me. And I thought we better worm him. We're going to keep an eye on everybody because that's two. Everybody else is looking good. Haven't seen anything with anybody else, but we'll kind of keep an eye on them just to make sure we don't have another one somewhere along the line, because we should be getting okay now. Long sleeves today, no jacket on today. Here we are in almost mid-November, first week of November anyway. It was 62 degrees this morning. That should be our high. That's the way we started. Tomorrow will be in the 40s and rain, and after that it looks like 30s and teens for lows, and it's going to stay that way for quite a while. So that should help take care of any worm problem. You're not going to pick up any worms anywhere else, not when it gets down that cold anyway. Otherwise, there's not a lot happening. I am going to cover one thing. I'm going to hang this up. I'm going to hang up over here because I got one thing we're going to talk about, and that is, well, you're probably getting in with breeding. You're going to have lambs. Maybe this is your first year. I know I've talked to a few people, and this is the first time they're breeding any ewes, which means next spring it's going to be the first time they're going to have some lambs to sell. And now's the time to start thinking about it. Yeah, I know they're not even born yet, but we're going to talk about that. You know, there's an old saying, don't count your chickens before they hatch, and it's got a point to it too. But even though we're just starting to be breeding now, and we got 5 months before we're going to have lambs, we should already be thinking about marketing those and how we're going to do that, because you don't wait till the last minute. And I thought we'd take time, and I'll kind of tell you what I did, or the approach I took for marketing stuff like this. First thing, social media. Great places to go on social media. Facebook. Now, you can't sell livestock on Facebook. A little bit, I'll tell you how you get around that one. But you can't sell livestock on Facebook, but there are tons of Facebook groups that'll be associated with what you're doing. If you're doing painted desert sheep, there's all kinds of painted desert sheep Facebook groups, and I belong to a bunch of them. Painted desert, trophy hair sheep, just hair sheep in Nebraska, because I'm in Nebraska. And I'll have 6, 7 different Facebook groups that I belong to. Now, you can't sell from there, but you can post pictures and stuff like that. So I try to stay active in those Facebook groups, posting pictures, especially when you got lambs and stuff like that, because there are ways you can still sell through those groups. I have my own Facebook page. Find a link for that in the description. If you haven't liked or followed my Facebook page, you can do that. And again, I'll put stuff there. It puts you out where people see what you have. Now, probably your first place you're thinking of selling, it's going to be Craigslist, and that works really well. I did Craigslist myself last year. Well, probably, I don't know, 2/3 of what I sold, or maybe more, were sold via Craigslist. But the key is you don't wait till you have lambs. You start early, all right? Or you don't wait till you're ready to wean lambs. You start early. The last lambs I had born last year were the first week of May. I think May 3rd or 4th, something like that. Now, I had some people that I already had a list of people wanted to buy lambs. So once I had, everything was born, I went to those people first. All right, you're on the list, you're the first guy, you get first choices. What are you looking for? We figured that out. We got it done, and once we got done, by about the first week of June, I knew what was taken and what would be available to sell. I started up with Craigslist ads. I wasn't going to wean until July, but I started Craigslist ads a month ahead of time. This is out there, getting people to see them. They're not available yet, but people were looking. When it got all said and done, by the time I was ready to wean in July, everything was already sold. Everything was taken care of, everything was sold before we ever got even to the weaning time. So if you're thinking about it, think early. Start early with your ads. Maybe you're doing fall breeding. You're down south and you've got lambs right now. They've just been born. Think about it. Once you got your lambs, get the ads out there. Get out on Craigslist. Start selling early. Start putting them out there early so people can see them. The very first ad I put up on Craigslist, I don't know if I got the picture. If I do, I'll put it so you can see it, was a picture of the ewes out in the pasture. I got all those colorful ewes out in the pasture. I never got a response, one. All right, I renewed it a week later, still nothing. I waited 2 more weeks. Well, maybe not quite that long. I did it again, but now I changed the main picture and I went with, well, something like this. Now I got all kinds of responses. So think about the pictures you're going to put up, but get started now. Get people thinking. If you've got spring lamb or fall lambs and you're going to be ready to sell them in another month or 2 months, they'll be weaned, start now. Get ready to go with it. Facebook, let's go back to that. How do you sell off of Facebook? You post all the pictures you got. Facebook's got an odd way to do it. They just don't want you to sell animals. And there's all kinds of neat ways you can do it. I've got these lawnmowers for sale. I've got this guy's looking for girlfriends, or these girls are looking for a new guy. And there's all kinds of ways to word it without saying you're selling anything. And then they got to private message you, and you can do that. And I have done that. But the better way, I think, get a website. I made one through Weebly. And if this technology guy that's not too good at technology nowadays can come up and build his own website, you can. Weebly is very easy. It's drag and drop. Drag and drop, and you can do everything you want. A little bit of learning curve on day one, but it doesn't take much to figure that out. You can make a real nice website. Why does this work? Because now I go to Facebook, now I show pictures of the lambs or the rams or whatever I have, and I always put a link to my website. Always drop a link to the website. People will go look at there. Now you can have prices, you can have pedigrees, you can have all kinds of stuff on your website that you can't normally do on a Facebook page, and they can still contact you back through Facebook, or they can email you, or whatever you want to do. A website, Weebly, I think Weebly is either $19.95 a year, or if they got some security feature, it's $29. And somehow accidentally I got signed up for that last time. So somehow I pay $30 a year for a website, and I'll tell you what, that's the way to go, because every time you post somewhere else, you can put links to your website and get people to come to your website. And speaking of that, I'm going to do something totally different this year. Haven't done it before, but give you another idea of something to do. As I mentioned last year, when I started selling, I already had a list. I have a list for this year. People that bought lambs last year are already on my list for this year and have lambs that they're going to want. This year I'm going to do something different, and I'll put a link in the description. It's a page to my website that I'm just building now, or have built, and it's what's coming in 2023. So what I've done is I've taken, like Stu here, and I've taken Stu and I've taken these 5 ewes that are with him, and I've done a pedigree for what their offspring's pedigree will look like. What will their registration papers look like on each one of those? And I've done that for Stu, I've done it for Greystone, Lomax, Stony. They're all listed on the page, and you can look at the ram. You can look at, okay, here's with Dub. If Dub, whatever lambs she has, this is going to be their pedigree. This is what you'd be looking at. And like I said, don't count your chickens for the hatch. They're not born yet. But it gives people a chance to look at something. And the reason for that is going to be, somebody comes through and looks and said, I really want something from Stu. I like Stu, I want something. You can look and he can come back to me and say, hey, I like that Dub and Stu cross. I'd really like a ewe lamb out of that. You let me know, I'll put you down on the list. Now, if there's people ahead of you, if that's what they want, they're going to get first shot. But if they want something else, and no, I want something from Stony over here, and this one wants something from Lomax here, and you're third on the list, and you want Dub, and she did have a ewe lamb, and that's one you want, fine, you're first on the list for it. I know my daughter has done that with her goats. She lists her goats, and here's this, here's where they're bred, how they're bred. If you're looking for one or the other, let me know, put them on the list, and she does a lot that way. So I'm doing the same thing here. There'll be a link in the description. It's basically, yeah, you're a long way off yet, but if people are looking, if they've got something particular they want, it gives them an opportunity to say, hey, put me down. If that ewe has a ewe lamb, I want one. I'd like a ewe lamb from, I know I'm going to get a ewe lamb from you, but I'd really like to get one from that particular ewe if I can. And I thought, you know what, this will kind of give an opportunity for that. And that's your other key, is contact with people and start that list. I've got a list of some people already for the spring. You know, when I do this, if I got some other people interested, maybe I'll add them to the list. It helps. And I thought, you know, if you're just starting, this is something to think about. Sales of lambs isn't the day, okay, I'm weaning tomorrow, now we can start selling them. I start now. Mine aren't born yet. I'm not even 100% sure they're bred yet, but I'm all ready to be selling them before that ever happens, or at least get that idea out there to people. So if you're starting out and this is your first year doing lambs, you know, it gives you an idea, maybe something to think about. Maybe you've been doing it a while, but you've been doing it differently. If nothing else, maybe I'll give you a little bit of idea of something I've tried, and hey, maybe that works for you too. I don't know, they got not much happening. I haven't seen a ton of activity out here, but then again, you don't always see a lot of activity. Maybe that's a good sign. Maybe that means most everybody's bred, already bred. We're gonna hope. I can't see it be already though. It's only been about a little over 3 weeks. I'd like to think it's gonna be a little bit longer yet. But any of the ones that I thought were bred, I haven't seen any activity. I haven't seen anybody following anybody, so maybe that's a good sign too. As far as next week, we'll see if anything's happening. It's going to get cold, and I'm going to start staying by the fire a little bit more now, not so much outside, so we'll see. If we got something next week, we'll be back. If not, hey, we'll be back in a couple weeks. See you then.